The New York Times, the Pulitzer Prize Board, and Columbia University have come together to tell us normal people one thing.
Let them eat cake.
If you thought it was bad that the New York Times didn't run a correction for a piece about how rape was weaponized by Hamas on October 7th, a piece that was literally written by a former IOF soldier, well, guess what? The staff of the New York Times just won a Pulitzer Prize for its wide-ranging and revelatory coverage of Hamas's lethal attack on southern Israel on October 7th. You won't be surprised by who administers the Pulitzer Prize: Columbia University. The president of Columbia, Manoush Shafik, is a Pulitzer Prize board member. It was awarded the prestigious journalism prize despite the extraordinary revelations unearthed by The Intercept that one of the authors of a story called Screams Without Words was an Israeli soldier who had never previously written as a journalist. Parts of the story were entirely made up, most egregiously that on October 7th, Hamas had shown a pattern of weaponized rape. At this very moment, Israel is invading Rafah, and from the perspective of journalism, the New York Times has controlled the narrative by providing justification to the world by publishing propaganda pieces written by Israeli intelligence agents and IDF soldiers. And check this part out. In a top-down society, control of the narrative is true power. This is why TikTok is targeted, because the narrative is not controlled by the dominant power structures. Journalists understand that human beings are storytelling creatures. We tell each other about our surroundings in order to understand it better. And our inner lives are constantly defined by the mental narratives we tell ourselves. The power to control what happens is a sign of power. But a more important power is the ability to control how we interpret what happens. Looking at it through the lens of controlling the narrative, it makes sense that the Pulitzer Board and jurists for the Journalism Prize voted for the staff of the New York Times, even if some of the reporting has been proven to be false. Don't take my word for it. Listen to the words of Jeffrey Gettleman, the lead writer for Screams Without Words.
I don't want to even use the word evidence, because evidence is almost like a legal term that suggests you're trying to prove an allegation or prove a case in court. That's not my role.
As an old school journalist, I interpret him to mean that the idea of objective, unbiased journalism is outdated. We live in a postmodern world where objectivity does not exist. Only the subjectivity of the collective you come from. Gettleman is Jewish, so he writes from the perspective of his in-group, so he is free and clear to lie as long as it serves those interests. No concern for the truth. It's not anti-Semitic to expose power structures that control the narrative of the stories we tell ourselves.